Hi guys, Ryu here with another tutorial for Blender, and today I want to show you the basics, the very basics of hard ups. How do you get into hard ups and how to understand the whole confusing and intricate, menu system and options and tons of options, right? It's really easy, so let's make it easy. First of all, how do you install the damn thing? So you need to go to Gumroad or Blender Market of Master Xeon 1001. You can do it through the links in the description of this video, which will help my channel as well and doesn't cost you anything. So once you get the add-ons, and I suggest you get both box cutter and hard ups. And the reason why I suggest that is because these add-ons are so intertwined and so work together and have tools supporting one another that it would be just dumb not to get them both, okay? And you're gonna be getting both eventually anyway, so why not doing it now? The way to remove, because let's say that you install them and you want to change the version of the hard ups, which by the way evolves quite quickly, and you might be needing to reinstall it quite often to get access to new options or, for example, some bug fixes, right? So what you want to do is go here and to your preferences and type hard ups and simply remove it, right? And then save preferences and then go to box cutter, and if you want to remove it too, do the same thing, remove and save preferences, and then you quit Blender, right? And then you reopen it again. All right, now with the hard ups uninstalled, we can install it back on. So let's go to preferences and you click on install and you simply install the add-on from the file that you have wherever you saved it. Once you find the file on your drive, you simply click on it and install add-on. You wait a little bit and click on this box, you wait a bit and you're done. Save preferences, you're good to go. Now, to access hard ups or box cutter, all you need to do is press Alt W and it's gonna flip between them. W gonna get you out of the zone. Out of the bat, you'll see a top bar menu. I discussed this bar menu in a different video. I have a series of videos on hard ups on my channel. There is a special playlist for it. You can watch these videos in here and they will explain the basics of that menu. But this menu doesn't really change. These are like smart object, which means you can drop them in here and bevel them, and when you press and hold Control, you can simply reshape them, change bevels, etc. Right? So these are pretty cool to play with. Then the other stack on the right side, you have modifiers, but they're smart modifiers. So for example, if I went to grab a plane and I rotated it by 90 degrees on X and had some loops, and went to this deform modifier and apply rotation, and then hold Control because these are smart modifiers, and right click in here, you can see that I can now bend this plane and apply some smoothness to it. So that's in short the top menu. Okay, the most important menu, however, is the Q menu, because that's your operations menu, and when you have something selected, or you for example in the edit mode, or you for example in sculpting mode, this menu will shift to and adjust to whatever space you are in. So again, solid mode different, edit mode different, etc. right? Now another menu that's quite important is this one, and the same menu you can find by around the end panel. So here, where is it? Hard ups, this one. That's the same menu as you can see, so there's no point really going there if you can access it in here. And I usually set this before I start working. I turned on Auto T panel and BC notifications. Now Auto T panel is simply when you start working, for example, on modifiers, you can see that the T panel is going to automatically disappear on the left side, and when I stop working on modifier, it's going to pop back in. And the same thing actually going to happen with the end panel. This is going to disappear to make more space for this H menu, which is a helper menu text. Otherwise it would be simply too congested, especially on smaller monitors or laptops. That's your menu in here, and BC notifications is simply notifications from box cutter at the bottom. So just gives you some interesting information on what's happening. And this one here, sequential menu, is simply a menu that displays modifiers and all this stuff on these rollout menus in a much more compact fashion. In the original hardobs, there is like a long list of modifiers going up and down, and you can see it in here. So if I go to modifiers, there you go, it's like a long list and you have to scroll it, which is a little bit annoying. So this one is a very welcome addition to and change to hardobs. If you're coming from the previous version of hardobs, this video probably is not for you, but if you, for example, struggle with the new array, the v2 array, and you want some functions from the old one, this is where you change it to array v1. So that's that. Another menu is Control tilde menu, which is very important because it will show you the modifier stack, as well as you have access to the most important functions and settings of hardobs. This is the heart of hardobs, right? Another menu is going to be Shift Q, which is like a quick access menu with all kinds of interesting options in here. Quick access to bevel, solidify, and sharpen as well, and mirrors. So that's a very interesting menu. Then you have Shift Control B menu, which is actually a bevel menu. So let's go to a bevel first and then access bevel menu. And this menu will not work if you have Bool tool installed. So when you have a Bool tool add-on installed, right? Bool tool add-on by default has this, where is it? Control-Shift B. So that's the main menu for the Bool tool. I usually have it changed to something like Control-Shift-Alt-B. So when I go to Bool here under key map, let me see that Bool tool here, Control-Shift-Alt-B, because if you leave it on Control-Alt-B, Control-Shift-B, you will not be able to access the hardobs bevel menu. So just switch the key map and you're gonna be fine. Now, the deeper you go with hardobs, the denser the forest gets, but the basics are usually not changing and they stay the same. But again, the hardobs is an evolving tool, and you need to get used to it, that hardobs will always change and new tools gonna come around, something's gonna change. So you kind of need to roll with the punches, but again, the basics usually stay the same. So first of all, bevel, right? That's what you do when you start your modeling. You know, you want to drop a bevel, and again, you can access this H menu in here, and you can see a plethora of options. Usually, it's really easy. All you do is scroll your mouse to add or deduct segments and switch between different type of profiles or types of bevels that are accessible to you. You can turn on or off the wireframe, and that's pretty much it. So for example, if I want to change it to a chamfer, I'm going to press 1, scroll my mouse to one segment, like you can see in the bottom, and Bob's your uncle. If I want to add another bevel to this, for example, what I'm going to do is control click on bevel, which will add another bevel on top of it. Now I can switch between these bevels by pressing Q. So you see that on the left bottom corner, if I press Q, I'm switching between the small one and the big one, and you can adjust them accordingly. The next very simple and basic operation would be like, let's create a cut with a box cutter. You can see that shading breaks, so we need to add weighted normals, and the way to do it is simply by alt clicking sharpen. In any case, if you hover your mouse over a tool, you can see that the plethora of options is going to pop up, and you can see what these keys or options will do when you for example hold shift, control, or alt, or whatever key, and you're gonna have different functions that you can perform with them, right? So for instance, sharpen, if you hold alt and click on sharpen, is going to add weighted normals. But you know, let's say we have more cuts in here, and we want to apply all the booleans at once. All I need to do, let me just make this bevel a bit smaller. All I need to do is control click on sharpen, which will actually apply all the modifiers to the model, plus add sharpen to the model. If you don't want sharpen to be added to the model, you can actually switch it off. So if I'm going to remove the sharpen, I have to just run sharpen again, which will clean the sharp edges. Then go to Control tilde menu and simply turn off everything in here on the sharpen. So you can have all 4, 1, 2, or none. So now if I ran Control sharpen on this mesh, it was applied. You can see this message here, but no sharp edges were applied to my mesh. So that's how you work with basic functions in hardobs. Now this menu It's very interesting because it will actually suggest from the top the most important things that you might want to perform with the tool, kind of like an intelligent menu. So for instance, if, you know, if I want to have mirror, I'm gonna click on mirror, but mirror can be also accessed by Alt X. So Alt X will access a mirror. If you press tab, you're gonna have additional options in here. And again, as always, if you press H, you have additional options on your right hand side, like a tooltip helper. Then Shift D will bring another menu, and this menu will depend on which mode you are in. So if I'm in a simple mode, by pressing tab again, if I go to Shift D, the menu is going to shift as well. And you simply click on a you know, handle and you copy. If you want to copy on 2 axes, you have to hold Shift, and then you can copy on any axis that you want. So you can, for example, have 3-way mirror with, you know, 3 clicks, which is really easy. And Control tilde, go to Modifier Stack, and you can see that mirror was applied on all axes in here and was placed in the correct order, so after beveling. So for example, it's not a fantastic function of Hardops that it's actually sorting the modifiers for you, because for example, if I create a boolean cut, you can see that in vanilla Blender this boolean would be at the bottom of the stack, because it's the last modifier added. So it will look like this, which means like shit. So you would need to manually bring this boolean to the top of the stack. In 2.9 you can actually drag it, because 2.9 has a drag and drop kind of, you can drag and drop modifiers, literally you can just grab it and drag it. But in 2.83.4 or higher, you can't, because it's just not there. So you will need to do it manually, but Hardops is gonna actually sort it for you. So every time I actually, you know, create a boolean, you'll see that my boolean is gonna be sorted automatically. Let me just expand it. So there you go. It's gonna go above the bevel, because now first you need to boolean and then you need to bevel to ensure that, you know, the edges were cut into the mesh are actually beveled, because if the bevel is gonna be at the top of the modifier stack, you'll see that these edges inside won't get beveled, which makes sense, right? Because you first bevel and then you cut through that bevel. So there you go. And again, if you want to apply everything, just Control Sharpen and Bob's your uncle, and this will leave. This will apply literally all the booleans. So there you go. So Hardops has a lot of quality of life. It's a quality of life tool really, and there's a lot of quality of life functions. For example, if you click on a face and you want to rip it off, you can do it with ease, but you can do more than that. You can, for example, go to Curve Extract and hold Shift, and you can rip it off and solidify at the same time, which is bloody brilliant. You can, for example, easily bevel verts. If you go to Bevel and Control click on Mark, you can actually bevel a vert, and this will behave like any other bevel, which means you can change profiles and have fun with it. So that's genius. If you want to add second bevel, all you need to do is Control click on a mesh, or go to an option known as Step, which is in here, which will also add another bevel. Again, if you hover over a function, it will tell you what it does. Now, Hardops has built-in support for certain add-ons, like Decal Machine KitOps through, for example, the asset loader. So if you go to asset loader and you have KitOps and Decal Machine installed, you can load assets through Hardops. So for instance, if I wanted to apply a wood texture to my scene, all I need to do is Control click on this material, and it's gonna get added to my cube. So again, asset loader and Control click, and your wood is added. That's easy. The same with Decal Machine. If you click on this, here it will switch to Decal Machine, and you can add your decals from your decal packs. Other add-ons integrated to Hardops is Machine Tools, Bezier Mesh Shaper, Mira Tools. For example, if I press Control Shift tilde, I'm going to access Mira Tools, but you need to be in a vert mode. So let's say I select all these 3 verts, go Control Shift tilde, and you see now I'm in a Mira Tools setup, which is actually the same thing as if you were going to Mira Tools and going to C-Stretch Curve, right? So Curve Stretch. It's the same tool, simply integrated to Hardops for easy use. And you can also go through the plugin in edit mode, and you can have Curve Stretch of Mira Tools, or you can go to the Bezier Mesh Shaper, which is also a very interesting tool for you know, reshaping reshaping your mesh. Another function of hardopes that's really great is an ease of adding materials. So Alt-M will open a new menu, which will actually allow me to add material very quickly to this cube. The materials are random, and they will be generated within like a sci-fi environment, so metallic kind of thing. And you have choice between different types of materials. If you go and open this menu in here, you can see that you can change between different types of material on the fly. In addition to all this, you can actually use the material, apply material by pressing, for example, Shift, which will add glass, or Alt, which will add emissive. This is really a great addition to this add-on, because it allows you to work extremely fast. You can also add multiple materials to multiple objects. You can randomize materials. It's very powerful, this tool. So that's Alt-M menu. Alt-V menu is also a very interesting menu for hardopes, which will allow you to manage a scene, for example, camera. Let's say, for example, if I wanted to render this and click on this cube, and want to Alt-V and click on camera, it will add a camera with an empty. So if I went to timeline, so let me expand this and go to timeline and press on play, you'll see that I will have, let me slow this down, I'll have a turntable set for my camera. I don't have to do anything, and it works very simply. There is an empty inside in here, which is to which camera is parented, and it literally turns around the mesh. So if you want to create very quick turntables, this is just a one-click deal. It's fantastic. You can add scene lights, which will add random lights to the scene. You can rotate through different combination. You can go to look depth mode, and this is extremely powerful as well, because you can very easily, for example, holding Shift, change environments. You can blur them with B. Again, H menu should help you with this one. Now the Alt-V menu is really powerful, and it would take probably a separate tutorial at least to explain all the functions of it. But the settings, like for example EV settings, which are all set in here, so you can turn them on and off very easily, very quickly. You don't even have to have this panel open. So for instance, if you wanted to work in a full screen mode by pressing Ctrl Alt and spacebar, you can do that because you have access to all these tools very quickly through Alt-V menu, and you don't really need this menu on the right hand side here. Another interesting things that you can do with hardopes is, for example, these little tools in mesh tools, right? It's just a plethora of options that are fantastic, like radial arrays with one click. All I have to do is move this a little bit in here, and then I press Q and go to operations and mesh tools and radial array with control, and literally I have access to my radial array with ease. It's just brilliant, so easy to do these things. You don't have to set anything up. It's fantastic. Then you have stuff like a line tool, which is to be found in here, and I have it remapped to Control Q. Control Q is mapped by default to quit Blender. You don't really want to quit Blender, so I just deleted it. So when you go to key maps and you type here quit, I don't even have it on my menu because I simply deleted it, but you can change it to something else, and then you can remap this to right click and add shortcut to Control Q. And now when I press Control Q, it will enter this alignment mode, which you can see the options here. But basically, when you scroll your wheel, you switch views, and then when you hold Control and scroll, you can actually rotate around, and you press Shift, you can rotate this way. So this is a very powerful way of actually aligning, for example, cutters, because if I go to box cutter and go with Shift V menu and switch my cutters to view, I can cut at any angle I wish, which is extremely powerful if you work on some stuff that is angled in a very peculiar way. So Align Tool is an extremely powerful tool. It's recently added to hardopes. Another great tool, for example, I can show you is Dice, which is basically slashing mesh with a knife. Now in this case you would think, well, why would I need it? All I need to do is just run the loops. Yeah, fair enough, but how about if this mesh, if this mesh is sliced heavily? Let's say you want to do something like this. Let me show you a practical example of Dice. Let's slash this mesh, in here in different ways, And you know, let's apply this, okay, sharpen, and let's run bevel through it and weighted normals. And good luck running loops through this mesh. It ain't gonna happen, right? So what you need is dice, and dice is just, you know, like a projectable knife that will simply run in any axis that you want, because you can actually switch the axes between X, Z, and Y. So you can add them, deduct them. We can run them on all axes, on one axis. So when I press now, it will literally run edges across this mesh. Now you say, why would I need that? Well, if you go to mesh tool and go to twist 360, that's why, because it simply allows the mesh to bend without being disfigured. Because if I did that without dice, right? So I went to mesh tools and 360, you see the problem, right? The mesh isn't actually curving. So these kind of tools with hard ups, they will make your life for, you know, when you model hard surface, extremely easy, and modeling becomes scarily fast. QMenu is basically by default mapped to favorites. So if you go to preferences and go to key map and type favorites, you can see that it's QMenu, but QMenu is mapped to hard ups. So how can you deal with favorite, key shortcuts? Well, simply if you press Q twice, you will access quick favorites menu. So Q twice and you're in here. So you can, if you, for example, have something like, I don't know, select sharp edges added to favorites, and you have, you want to select them on the mesh, double Q, and you have access to this option. That will be all, I think, about very basics of hard ups and how to start using them. Again, if you need help with hard ups, you can always go to settings and go to hard ups learning, and you can see that there are all kinds of different resources, including a hard ups channel, all kinds of YouTube channel, even including my channel. Thanks very much, Jerry, for adding this. I really appreciate that. And hard ups documentation, if you're lost, you should always look up the documentation, or Master Xeon videos, which are coming really often. And if there is a new development or new update, most likely Master Xeon's gonna just drop a new video and show you guys how to use those new toys from hard ups. But once you master the basics of hard ups, it's really easy to understand how it all works and find your way around. So play with the basics and then move on from there. You don't have to learn everything at once. You can just go easy through the process and start with the basics. But once you start using hard ups, you understand how fast you can move through your modeling process, which will become more intuitive and more artistic in a way, because you don't have to think about or pause your creativity, and start moving, for example, modifiers. One thing I forgot to mention, which is extremely powerful, is actually Modifier Stack. So let's add some, some modifiers in here. Let's add weighted normals, and we have a bevel already going on. If you click on Q and go to operations and Modifier Scroll, you can see that, well, let me just hide this menu for a second. Let's do this again. Let's click on Modifier Scroll. You can actually access modifiers and scroll through them. So you can go to the very basics of where you started. So when you scroll with your mouse, you can see the sequence in which the modifiers were added. More importantly, you can actually move them. So for instance, if I hold Shift and grab bevel, I can move it to the top of my stack. This is very useful when you, for example, work in stuff like mirrors. So when you add a mirror to the modifier stack and you go to modifier scroll, you can actually, you can scroll your mouse down to a mirror and you can move it up the stack until you're happy with the position. So extremely powerful. You don't have to fiddle with again, your modifier stack in here. You can work in full mode as well, which is fantastic if you want to have more real estate on your screen. And you don't really need these windows on the sides. That's why hard ups menu was designed that way, to give you a comfort of work in a large environment. That's it for hard ups for beginners. That's how you start with hard ups and the very basics of it. And again, remember that tools is evolving rapidly, so you should stay up to date. But I would recommend actually keeping older versions of hard ups if you get used to some tools. because literally you get like you know, a new version every 2 weeks, and among bug fixes and some minor changes, usually we're getting some experimental tools with it. So if you're not used to if you're used to some tools, like for example people were used to this v1 array, and I actually prefer the v1 array because it's more versatile. It gives me options under one menu, but it was changed to v2, so you know, you have this option here to switch between them. But anyway, keep your older versions of Hardops. That's what I would suggest. If you know, if something changes that you don't like it, just hold on to the older version. I know that Josh, for example, you know, doesn't update his Hardops all the time. He just keeps it for like, you know, a couple weeks or a few weeks, and updates when he feels like it. I also rarely manage to catch up with the updates because they just very frequent, but there's no need really to, you know, keep this up to date like 100% of the time, because sometimes it's overwhelming, especially when you start learning Hardops. I would suggest to stick to one version for some time until you know, understand what's going on, and then you just, you know, start following the updates and see what's happening, what's new on the market, right? Box cutter is very different. It's actually way more stable in terms of functions and development. They usually update it to work with new functions of Hardops, but box cutter is more or less an add-on that, you know, once you learn how to use it, you're probably gonna be okay for a long period of time. But like I said, you know, Hardops main functions usually don't change, the core ones here, and you know, mostly what we get is just new toys under these two Windows operations and mesh tools. That's what's up. But anyway guys, that would be it for the very basic vid on Hardops. Hope you enjoyed the video. Again, links in description to Master Xeon 1001 store if you're interested in buying these add-ons. Go through the links, you're gonna help me as well, which I appreciate greatly. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.